60. Aaron Torres, Fox Sports, an amazing voice on college hoops, a passionate college hoops fan and insider with us right now on John and Jim in San Diego. Aaron, great to have you back. When you think about San Diego State, there's a lot to get into in the West with the Mountain West and the Aztecs. I mean, a year ago, they end up in a national championship game. It's hard to follow up on that, but San Diego State, you look up, they're 14-2. They are 3-0 in the Mountain West. What do you make of the Aztecs right now?
First of all, it's great to talk to you guys. Been a little bit of a hectic last couple of hours. You know, John, I thought it was going to be like a nice, easy, we just talk a little hoops. Then literally the greatest who ever did it retired. And by the way, I don't know if we've talked since I saw you at the Final Four, so it was a privilege to kind of link up in person. You know, all I would say is as an outsider, and for people who don't know, I do live on the West Coast, so I'm probably a little bit more familiar with this program than most. I don't think there's anything the least bit surprising about this. This is who the program has been. It's been bluntly one of, I would argue, you know, I haven't done, you know, sat down with a pen and paper, but I mean, it's got to be one of the 2-3 most consistent programs in all of college basketball, probably really over the last decade. And maybe that's even underselling it a little bit. I mean, every year it feels like you can pretty much count on, you know, 28 plus wins, you know, competing, if not winning the Mountain West and being in position to do damage in the NCAA tournament. And just because they hadn't done damage in the NCAA tournament under Coach Dutch didn't mean that they weren't capable of it last year. So obviously the nation got to see it as a West Coaster or an adopted West Coaster. I'm not from here originally. I'm glad that the nation finally got to see how great this program is. But then I think this is just a continuation from last year. I know they obviously lost a ton of guys off last year's roster, including 5th, 6th-year guys with the COVID year and everything. But when you're building around Lamont Butler, when you're building around Leday, who I got to speak with at the Final Four last year, and I was just so impressed by him being willing to redshirt with all the depth in the front court, I didn't really expect that much of a drop-off. And so we haven't gotten a drop-off. San Diego State obviously has some very nice wins early, and they're going to be in position to do what they do every year, which is get a nice seed and make a run in the tournament when they get there. And I expect very much the same this March. Maybe not quite as good as last March, but I expect very much the same.
You mentioned Jaden Leday there, and he's playing at just a different level than a lot of players out there. Would you consider him right now not only a first-team All-American, but does he have a chance, if he continues to play like this for the rest of the season, to be up for the conversation for National Player of the Year?
It's a great question. You know, the National Player of the Year, listen, it feels like it's going to be tough to wrestle that away from Zach Edey. I don't, you know, there's a lot of season left, guys, so I don't want to say that it's you know, over or anything like that, but I do feel like it's his to lose. He certainly has the buzz. But listen, I mean, if he falls off, Purdue obviously lost last night. Maybe the people in the Big Ten have a little bit of a better idea on how to guard him than others. Then, you know, I don't see why he couldn't be in the conversation. I mean, you talk about a guy that's averaging obviously 22 points, 9 boards, essentially a double-double. And I think the big thing is San Diego State going to be in the position that they were a year ago? Not saying they will make another Final Four, but, you know, if we're talking about them as a potential, you know, 3 seed at the end of the year, top 10 in the AP polls, a bunch of great wins, and they're sitting there at, I know you're 14-2 right now. So if you're sitting there at 20, you know, say 30-4 after the conference tournament, then I think it's absolutely in play. Again, it's hard to imagine right now anybody other than Zach Edey, but I also think obviously if he falls off, I think Leday would be one of those candidates on that short list.
Aaron Torres, Fox Sports with us. It's not just San Diego State. Now, the last 2 years, the Mountain West has had 4 teams in, but the only team to win a game over that stretch was the Aztecs last year. They won 5 games and made a national championship game appearance. But Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State in the top 25 of the net right now. Nevada is 30th. New Mexico's fallen off a little bit. They're 44th. And you have Boise right now, 58th. I mean, this is a league, what do you think, Aaron, that looks primed to get another 4 teams into the NCAA tournament? Maybe an outside shot at more than that, right?
I mean, zero doubt. I mean, when you're talking, you know, a Colorado State team that is in the top 20 right now, that is now 1-2 in league play, it shows you how deep this conference is. And listen, I'll say this, guys, and this is something I think we've talked about through the years, but I don't think people realize the commitment level of these. These are great programs. I mean, San Diego State speaks for itself. Viejas Arena, we know what that venue is all about. But I was watching Colorado State the other night at home against New Mexico. That's an incredible arena. Nico Medved is a guy that could be in the Power Five if he chose to be, and he chooses to be at San Diego State. Obviously, New Mexico, the environment that they've created speaks for themselves. Steve Alford at Nevada, I've been critical of him, but that is a great fan base, and he maybe has found his niche back in the Mountain West. You mentioned Utah State, a program that just keeps finding new guys. You lose Craig Smith, then you bring in Ryan Odom. You lose Ryan Odom, and you don't miss a beat with Danny Sprinkle. So what it speaks to me, John, is whether it's 4, whether it's 5, is it 3? I think it'll be more than 3. But what it stands out to me is just a group of teams that are absolutely dedicated to competing at a really high level. The resources, I think, are probably better than a lot of people on a national scale realize, and I think obviously you're seeing that this year with the number of teams that could potentially be in the mix down the stretch. It's just a commitment across the board, starting at the top of the league office, all the way down to the teams, the programs, et cetera.
Where would you put the Mountain West as far as the whole college football landscape as a conference as a whole?
It's a great question because I don't get into the rankings and this and that and listen, the Big East is obviously very good. The Big 12, the SEC, I think is pretty good. But I mean, even if you look at the ACC right now, and I'm not saying the Mountain West is better than the ACC, but listen, I mean, I'm not saying it, but the ACC right now, Duke is really good. Carolina is very good. I think Wake Forest has exceeded expectations, but Virginia's struggling. Miami's struggling. Clemson started. So the point I'm trying to make is, you start talking about top 4, top 5, top 6. It is in the very short conversation. I don't even think this is how strong this league is. We don't even have to discuss that other West Coast Conference, and I'm not talking about the WCC, the other West Coast Conference that is about to cease to exist. Like, the Mountain West has clearly surpassed that league this year. And now I think the question is, where is it at relative to, say, the ACC? The Big Ten's maybe a little bit tough, but just a great group. Like I said, it's a great group of schools that are dedicated to this sport, great fan bases. You turn on TV, FS1, CBS Sports Network, packed arenas. So, I don't know where it ranks amongst these programs or these leagues. I just know there's 5, 6, 7, 8 really good teams. Same when you go on the road, tough places to win. Every year I love watching this league, and this year is obviously no different.
Aaron, one more before you go, just about the job Brian Dutcher has done. I think people do recognize it, but sometimes it's almost like it's just expected, and it's a bit still under the radar, it feels, even though he made a national championship game a year ago. And you hear about some of the great coaches in college basketball, and some have been doing it for 20-plus years. This is the 7th season for Brian Dutcher. His overall record is ridiculous. He's winning something like 80% of his games. Where is, in your opinion, Brian Dutcher in the hierarchy of coaches in college hoops?
Oh, man, it's such a great conversation. And he is a guy, obviously I've spent a little time around him. I wouldn't say I know him in any way, shape, or form. But I think his problem, if you want to call it that, is really twofold. It's that he is a very unassuming guy. I mean, I was really hoping making a national championship game would be his breakout moment. But I just, he's not about himself. He was an assistant forever. He was happy in San Diego. It's why he never left. I've talked to him about it. I'm sure you guys have talked to him about it. So there's that element of it, is he doesn't want the attention. He doesn't care. But then the other thing is just that he hadn't had the tournament success before last year. And I hate to say it. I hate to boil it down to that because it's so unfair to so many great coaches who have success. But this is a March sport on the national level. I mean, you look at my alma mater. I mean, my alma mater is UConn. I'm sorry to say it's San Diego State fans, but I still think Dan Hurley was largely Bobby Hurley's brother, Dan Hurley's son, until that national title run last year. And so this is a sport that's so defined by March. Dutch hadn't had that moment, even though anybody who knows this sport knows that San Diego State has been capable of it for 4, 5, 6 years. I won't open an open wound, but I think if 2020 happens, maybe people learn about Brian Dutcher a lot quicker. The 2020 tournament, I'm of course talking about. But this guy, I don't think even like he's not somebody you think of as a quote unquote star in this business. But I think anybody who knows the business, knows the program, knows what he's about, knows how good he is. Can I add one last thing, guys?
Of course.
Or are we running?
No, you're good. You're good.
I will just say, listen, being around this team at the Final Four last year was such a breath of fresh air. Like, it was just, and I think all four teams really had that. I mean, even Miami's got, a lot of NIL and this and that, but you could tell those kids loved each other. But just being in the San Diego State locker room and you see 23-year-old guys, 5th, 6th-year guys that could be starting at other programs saying, this is where I wanted to be. I love my teammates. I love my school. I'm willing to do less because this is where I want to be. It is just such a testament to that guy. And, I hadn't really thought about it a ton until I started talking to you guys. But taking myself back to March and remembering what it was like to talk to these kids and how much they had bought into the vision that Dutch sold them. And then on top of that, too, it's a credit to Dutch for going into a kid's home, promising him something and delivering, not over-promising, not saying if you come here, you're going to get this or you're going to get that. And I think that was the testament that all of those players had was, listen, what I was told in the recruiting process, it's still true 5-6 years later. So he's just a guy, again, I don't know if he'll ever get the national credit that he deserves, but anybody who knows and loves college basketball appreciates and respects everything that he has done for that program.
Really well said, Aaron, other than bringing up 2020, because I saw today at CBSSports.com. CBSSports.com today had what the last undefeated team has done nationally, like in the tournament over the last 20 or 30 years. And the year before, the Aztecs were the last undefeated in 2020. Virginia won the title. The year after the Aztecs started 26-0, Gonzaga lost in the national title game. And then there's San Diego State.
There's a giant NA next to it.
No tournament. Their path was Sacramento, LA to the Final Four.
Dude, listen, John, this might have been when you and I first connected, because I remember saying at that time, and you know how fans of quote unquote power conference programs get.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, if you don't think that team's good enough to win a national championship, you don't know what you're talking about. And now I know Mensa had the health issues and stuff as the season wore on. I just bring it up to say, whatever. I'm sorry I brought it up, but 2023 could have easily happened in 2020. And like I said, maybe people would have learned the name Brian Dutcher left.
Well said. Aaron, great stuff, man. Aaron Torres, Fox Sports. Let's do it again before the tournament. Thanks for doing it.
Anytime, guys. Thank you both very much.
All right, Aaron Torres.